Hello, hello, hello. This is Apostle Audrey Hosley from His Kingdom Reality. We are here to greet you and to celebrate Pentecost. This is actually Pentecost weekend, and ever since Resurrection Sunday, Passover, we've been sharing with people that you need to be experiencing your own personal Pentecost every day leading up to the celebration of Pentecost Sunday. This is a recording, and today is Saturday. Pentecost actually started uh, Thursday. The Jews celebrate one day in Israel and one day out, or maybe I have it backwards. But the point is, there's a culmination on Sunday, tomorrow, and we're very prayerful that you have moved into a new place in your life in Christ, whatever. Um, has hindered you in past seasons, you have been set free from, and you're dealing with your issues. Having said all of that, we have Dr. Elaine Barclay of Elaine Barclay Consulting with us today. She is a CEO. She's an awesome woman with so many things going on in one lifetime. It's just absolutely amazing. Barclay Consulting is a family business, and it works with mental illness at every genre of life, whether you're an adult, you're a child, teenager, married couple, single, or whatever you may be confronted with. Dr. Barclay can really help you get through your trauma and bring healing. And we're looking forward to hearing what she has to say. She is a professor at Capella University, a clinical director, and we could just continue. She's a mother, she's a wife, she's a woman who has walked through so much and is using her life to help others overcome the trauma and the ordeals that they have gone through in life. And so we welcome you, Dr. Elaine Barclay. And one last thing, I was introduced to her by a dear friend. Some of you met Valerie Guy through these recordings, and her daughter, Mylisha Williams. Well, I met I met Elaine, Dr. Elaine through Valerie, and there are people in your life that have a connection to the next level of life, your next season. And so pay attention to who is around you in this season. Sometimes you have to realign to get that connection that you need to move into a higher realm of knowing God, knowing Jesus, knowing Holy Spirit, and just pay attention to who's around you, because they may be linked, a connection to that person that you will need to help you go into a new season, or to mature in life. So blessings, Dr. Barclay, and Holy Spirit, we invite you here to speak through this woman of God, to share, to make known however you choose to. We love you, and we're so grateful for this time. Dr. Barclay, start telling us about yourself, please. What you want to say, you're free.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for this opportunity to be able to share, for this opportunity to be able to serve in this capacity. I am Dr. Elaine Barclay. Everyone, I always have them contact me or call me as Dr. B. I get to serve in this capacity regarding mental health. This is something that I feel that I get to do, that I get to go alongside those that are challenged with various levels of mental challenges, mental health challenges. And I get to help them walk through that valley, through the journey, their path, however way they identify it, to help them to get to a place of peace and what that looks like for them. This journey that I get the opportunity to serve in this capacity, I take it very seriously, because we never know who's dealing with what, when, and where. And I try my best to always be sensitive, no matter how big or how small the challenge is. It's a challenge. And for me, I get down in the trenches right with those that are purpose for me to serve in this capacity. And I walk alongside with them, helping them to understand right where they are, how to proceed to the next moment, and also how to move forward in the future, but literally being present every single step of the way. As Apostle mentioned, Apostle Audrey mentioned, I am the CEO. I teach at Capella University. I absolutely love to do that as well, getting the opportunity to help those along their academic journey, helping them to self actualize in that space, as well as understanding the importance of what it takes to be on a training ground before coming into the field of mental health or in the field of human services, and what that looks like for them. I feel that everyone has a purpose, everyone has a plan, everyone's life is predestined. And sometimes along the way, we never know what part we're playing in their lives. We may be chose to plant the seed, or we may be chose to water it, but we know ultimately God gives the increase. Also, as she mentioned, married to a wonderful, wonderful husband, going on 33 years. We have four amazing children and three awesome grandsons. And I love them. It's really huge for everyone to understand the importance of family and the importance of coming together, not without challenges. You're going to have challenges in your family, but it's also understanding how to navigate those heated fellowships when they occur. Also, how to navigate the heated fellowships within your marital relationship or in your relationships, period. And I like to say how to fight right and using the tools that you don't forget to attack the problem, not the person, and you're really getting to the core issue of what's going on to again help those that are challenged with whatever's happening in this world, but also knowing what does it take to get to that space of peace. Also, it's important for you all to know that when you're dealing with mental health challenges, it's important that you begin with being present, acknowledging where you are, not pushing it aside, not acting like it didn't happen, not moving forward in a space where you are thinking, you know what, let me just hurry and get past this. I don't want to think about it, because when you bury live things, it comes back up at the most inopportune time of your life. 100%. I just had the opportunity a few days ago to present on mental health and boundaries and what that looks like as far as coming together and being present. What does that look like to give yourself permission to set boundaries? What does that look like to give yourself permission to understand what boundaries mean and how it's helpful for you and those that you are connected to? And also the power of forgiveness. And I can just go on and on and on and on, because, again, it's an honor to serve in this capacity. It's a serious calling, I feel. And everyone's not built for this journey, and that's okay. Because when you look at the condition in which our world is in, Apostle Hosley, you are seeing that the level of mental health challenges is increasing daily.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There are a couple of things that you've said that I'd like to piggyback on. And as we've talked in the past, one of the things that I've tried, and by the way, for the audience, we've had an immense amount of technical difficulty. So we know that people are going to experience great breakthrough. But in our conversations, I've had a heart since before Mother's Day for uh, mothers who are really being traumatized by the actions of their children. Mother's Day is not the sweet day that everyone makes it out to be. For a lot of mothers, they are actually traumatized. The mother of the children who have been the shooter, who kill mass individuals, or the mothers of the children who were killed
Mhm.
innocently, or that one person that's been left in the family when the entire family has been gunned down, like that Asian family down in Texas where you've relocated to. There are so many ways that we need to be sensitive to other people's trauma. Military bodies coming home daily, and that's someone's son. That's a mother who gave birth to a child. And as you just so well said, there's so much mental health issues all around us, even being in the military. Marriages in the military, let alone a normal marriage, but your husband is 3,000 miles away and you may see him 2 weeks out of a year or something like that. You're carrying the weight of two parents. And so you talked about everyone being predestined. How can we fit? And we're going to land back in boundaries because boundaries is really excellent. How do we help people understand that they were created with value and purpose? And if I'm thinking of Dr. Ben Carlson, who was a renowned neurosurgeon and served under a president's administration, who came out of a household that was without father and a mother who couldn't read, who made the two boys do a book report every day. His brother is an engineer. He's a world renowned surgeon. How do we take the little things that are big things that seem to hinder us from our destiny, and work through those things to come out to know that we're predestined? And the other thing that I want to say, and I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but we got time. This is sister chat. What can we do as parents to see the gifting in our child and not try to mold our children in the generation past, but take the good things out of that generation and apply them to now in raising our children?
That's a very good question. And I want to begin with there is never a sense of one way fits all. It is never that way. So it is strategic to each individual, each family. So I'm just going to speak in generalities. So when a child is born, they're actually born, I feel, a genius. However, we begin to infiltrate our morals, our values, our ways, our traditions, and we begin to pull that genius kind of sort of out versus understanding and being whole ourselves, being in tune with ourselves and with your creator and whoever you identify as a higher power, God, the most high God. There's so many different beliefs that we have in our world. And you understand about what you are, who you are, and realistically, you can go from here to Hawaii, from here to Africa, from here to Spain. You will never find anyone that
Amen.
has a fingerprint as yourself. There is no carbon copy of you. There is no duplicate of you as a unique individual. Even when you have twins or triplets, every one of them have their own unique fingerprint, own individual. So when you have this beautiful baby, and sometimes, most times, brand new parents are afraid, like, oh my God, what if I make a mistake? Well, guess what? You will. You will. We all do. And we try to be able to give our children the best as we know in our limited knowledge. However, when we stop growing, we hinder the growth of this being that we've been blessed to care for. They're not ours to own. They've been lent to us to groom and to shape, I believe, in God. And for them to begin to understand what that looks like as they evolve into their own personal relationship with the Most High. It is helping them to develop that in a way where they have the foundation, and they are also taking that foundation and growing from it, because we ultimately want them to be better, to do better than what we have as parents. Now, to get them into that predestined place, you are helping them to understand their gifts that naturally come.
Yeah.
We're helping them to understand, the nuances that are unique to them, and you begin to help cultivate that, encourage them, talk to them. Now, I'm gonna go back a little bit. When I say talk, we communicate each and every day, but it's a big difference when we are effectively communicating, that the message that we're sending out, that the recipient is receiving the message that we are intending them to receive, not for it to be interpreted in a different way once we projected it out and they receive it in a way where it could be harmful. They can shut down, become defensive, not want to even hear anything that you have to say. And that happens. That happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Barclay, if I'm hearing correctly, there is already a blueprint within us that reveals our gifting, our value, our worth, and parents are sort of like the executives that uh, should be the ones pulling that gifting out. For instance, I have a 9-month-old granddaughter who would sit and play this little toy piano. And when I saw it, every day I sit her in front of this little piano and she bangs on it and I take pictures of it. And for me, this may be an indication of the gifting in her because she likes to sit there and bang on this piano. Her brother uh, used to kick. He's 2 years old. He kicked a soccer ball. It's okay, we're going to kick the soccer ball. And now his daddy is taking him to soccer classes at 2. And so what I'm saying is, should we be observing how they are leaning, train up a child in the way that they are, and when they are old, they won't depart from it? Should we be taking them into that gifting, showing them, if we see a child who like numbers, then perhaps they would be a mathematician or a scientist or an astronaut or something. Can you speak to that and how we as parents can be more observant? We have the feeding them, clothing them, the rules, but do we actually spend time to nurture the gifts that are in those children that need to be nurtured to come out?
That is a great, great question. So, it is a loaded question. So, I'm going to do my best to address every single aspect of it because it's important. So, when you are with your children, and let's say you have multiple children as we do, every single one of them are different and unique, as I mentioned earlier. So, I'll begin, like, for an example, our oldest, he naturally had a gift when it comes to writing and the greatness of his imagination when it came to writing. And initially, I didn't see it because many years ago, I always say I wish the wisdom that I know now as a parent, I wish I
Yeah,
had many years ago, because with the limited knowledge that I had back then and we had back then, we made a lot of mistakes that now
yeah,
we look at and say, oh my gosh, we parent very different. Our youngest we say that she has the best of us in our age and our knowledge and where we are now and the way that we parent and the way that we see and understand this thing we call life. So let's get back to the question. So in
Okay.
looking at the giftings in each child, it is important that you are honing in and understanding their natural ability to do whatever that is. And guess what? It may not be a gift, but when you start seeing them gravitate to that, it is important that you begin to cultivate that, whatever that looks like. But guess what? Because of the sometimes the poverty level, as we all know it, is very high right now, and sometimes your finances may not allow you to be able to put them in a program or put them in different organizations or teams or whatever is out there, different programs and just for them to be able to grow that gift. So what you do is begin to, the library is free. You can find different ways of cultivating that gift that you're seeing on, you can find different ways on YouTube to be able to harness that, to grow that, to be patient in harnessing and growing that and cultivating that with your child, naturally seeing how you do this and how they can grow from there. And consistency is the key. When I was four, I didn't know this till I became an adult. My dad told me that he knew when I was four that I was going to be focused and a part of my life was going to be in counseling. And I was like, "How so, Dad?" And he said that I was four, and he and my mom had taken us to the doctors. And so, in the doctor's office, pediatrician office, where you have all the toys and the kids are all playing. So my siblings and I, we were, of course, playing with all the children as we do when we would go to the doctor. And he said that across the room, there was a biracial couple. Now, it was the black male, it was an empty chair, and then the white woman sitting there. Now, to look, you would never put them together. So my dad said he saw me walk over to where they were, and he's behind me. So what he's seeing is that he sees me put my arms on the chair like this, and then he says, then from where he was on the other side of the lobby, he sees the woman began to cry. And he sees the guy drop his head like this. And he immediately went up and went over there. And he picked me up and he was like, I don't know what happened, but I'm so sorry. And he said, the guy was like, "No, sir, no, no, no." He said, "Thank you." He said, thank you for your daughter." And my dad was like, kind of lost. And he said, "Okay, all right, man." He was like, "No," he says, "There's no way that your daughter knew that this is my wife." And
Wow.
he said, "She came over here and he said that I said to them, married couples are not supposed to stay mad at each other, but they're supposed to
Wow.
and get it and make things right." That's what he said, and make things right. And so my dad was like, "Oh, wow, okay." He said, "Well, I hope everything worked out." He said, "In that moment, I knew that you were going to be doing counseling and helping many people." And what he started doing, because I love to read, providing books,
Yeah.
just different opportunities to talk, and it wasn't so much in a place where it was paid for me to cultivate the gift that he saw, but it was just being in just free groups, in the atmosphere, learning these things, and it just continued to grow and grow and grow and grow. And here I am today, and I'm graced, and
Amen.
I call it an honor to be able to serve in this capacity again. Is very serious. When you have children and you're seeing their gifts, begin to learn what you can do as a caregiver or a parent in whatever capacity, joining that village together to build the next generation in greatness.
Yes, yes, yes. And may I say that your father started building a boundary right then and there for that gifting within you
Mhm.
to continue to cultivate it and to bring it out. And boundaries, which you started
Yeah.
talking about forgiveness too. You spoke to this couple. Something within you knew that there was a little division between them, and you started speaking to it. But boundaries are more than me protecting you from harm, protecting, putting the food on the table, because that was the generation before me, to provide the food, and we blessed them. But you just said it. Every generation should be active in participating and bringing the next generation to a greater level of greatness, so that they can serve the better cause of humanity. And
Absolutely.
so to do that, we must own up to the mistakes of our generation and learn, educate ourselves to how do we stick to that blueprint.
Oh,
And
yes.
right now, we're seeing generations come up that say, we're not interested in the blueprint. You made so many mistakes, and we blame you for the screw ups. And we're just not going to listen to you anymore. We're going to create our own identity. We're going to create our own pathway. And hey, how do you want? You know what I love? What I'm doing? I'm sitting here and dumping all the stuff on you, and then I black out of the screen and leave you to deal with it. So I'm going to
It's
say this.
okay. It's okay. I'm smiling and shaking my head because I'm like, Lord God, yes, I overstand that space. I overstand making so many mistakes when our children with our children, growing up, and our thought processes that we thought was right. And we implemented those things, and it wasn't. It was harmful, it was hurtful. I would be the first to say that I made many mistakes. And
I'm
guess
with
what?
you.
In this world, I'm going to make many more.
Yeah.
But what's happening to me is that, okay, it does not feel good to sit in the seat and to be told all the things you did wrong when you know that in your heart your intentions were to do right. And
Yeah.
sometimes in our rights is harmful. In our thought processes of things being right, it's damaging. And
Yeah.
it can cause additional harm that you don't even realize is already there, in the vein of I want to help, or I want them to be better, or they have to be molded and shaped in this space that I feel that is what they need to be molded and shaped in. However, versus, okay, what is my God, what is your purpose for me, for this child that you blessed me with? Help me to not compare them and put all of their siblings in one basket and say, okay, this is I said in the beginning, a one size fits all does not work. Even with your children, they are unique individuals. How do you hone in on each and every one of them and and cultivate those gifts? Bring those gifts out, because they're our next generation. And with all of that, I made mistakes. And here's the thing: when your child, your grandchild comes to you and say, you hurt me this way, when you said this, when you didn't do this, when you meant to do this, or when you didn't show up, I was devastated. And when you call yourself trying to make it right, you made it worse, because you didn't take ownership, you didn't acknowledge it, you didn't apologize for it, you made excuses for your behavior.
Come
And
on now.
so what and to be able to sit there and really be quiet and not just listen, but hear their hearts and realize, oh my gosh, I, that's not what I meant when I said that. That's not what I meant when I did that. That's
Yeah.
not what my intentions were when I did these actions. And however, even if you don't agree with
Yeah.
their experience of you, Instead of saying, well, that didn't happen. That's not what I meant. You just changed that all around. No, and say, you know what? Those were not my intentions.
That's right.
However, this is how you experience me as your mom. This is how you experience me with fathers. Let's say if your father is speaking with your child, and I want to apologize. I am so sorry for harming you and hurting you and damaging you in the way that you experience me as your mom.
Yeah.
I never meant to hurt, wound, or offend you.
Yeah.
And I felt at the time, with the limited knowledge that I had in the moment, that I was doing the best thing. And I see now that it wasn't. Please forgive me. How can we begin here in this space of forgiveness and move forward together and realign and build again, or begin, period. And I always say, you acknowledge where they are, take accountability for your own actions, apologize, realign, and begin again. Because it doesn't feel good to sit in that space and know that you've hurt someone when your intentions is never to do that, especially our children, our grandchildren. And it hurts, but it's like, I am sorry. And in that discussion, and I call it processing those those experiences, is being able to hear one another's side and seeing it from the other person's perspective. Again, not making excuses, but discussing how this happened. How did this one incident tailspin into all these other instances and decision making and thought processes, and for the end result to be this? Let's go back to the core and understand where that seed was planted to tailspin into this. Here's the thing: when you plant one seed, let's take an apple tree. When you plant one seed, that tree is coming up with multiple apples,
Yeah.
all different shapes of apples. And you just planted that one seed, but it's in all the branches, all the leaves. That's a lot. And so that's what happens when we plant that one seed. It sprouts out into a lot. That's also
Yeah.
sowing that one seed of discord. Sowing seeds, it sprouts out into many things.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said, and I have written it down before you said it. Own mistakes. Own your own mistakes. Don't don't make someone think you're perfect, because none of us came here perfect, and we do make mistakes, whether it's intentional or unintentional. And so, don't make. This is something that I'm constantly saying in ministry. Don't make someone else's pain about you. And
Mhm.
you said this, to acknowledge, become accountable, realign, and begin again, and hear another person's perspective. If I come to you and say, I feel like you didn't listen to me or you did this wrong, and then you start, well, I did this and I know I'm right, my dad and my mama did it, and you have taken the pain that's sitting before you and someone who's trying to be vulnerable and made it about you. And really, that's a form of pride, uh,
Mhm.
false pride, that you're not willing to admit that you've made mistakes and it didn't turn out the way you want to. And we're talking to parents now, because there's a narcissism going around where you're the only person that can do it right, and everything you say is right.
Mm.
And really, all it's doing is reflecting your wounds that you
Mhm.
need healing, and you're projecting your wounds, those seeds, on another individual, and you're wounding them. And we don't think of it like this. Sometimes the people who are in these mass shootings are a direct result of the woundings of their parents that were projected on them, and they didn't know what to do with it, nor do they know what to do with our own wounding. And we've got to stop. We must stop. We must be able to relate to our children because it starts at that level in their pain. And as you so gracefully said, I'm sorry that you felt this way, and I apologize for any actions I may have taken that brought you into this state of mindset because it's not what I wanted to reflect to you.
No, I always say don't psychoanalyze, just apologize.
That is so cool. Wow. Don't
Yes.
psychoanalyze, just and an apology goes a long ways. And it
Yes.
doesn't mean that you're wrong. It means I understand and I'm listening and I'm sorry that I apologize that you feel this way. What can we do to bring healing here? What can we do to take it a little further?
Absolutely. One of the things in that space is that when we are made aware of the things that we've done that cause harm, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't. It is like, oh my gosh, I sacrificed for you. I did this for you. I did that for you. And you get into a space where it's like, oh my goodness, I cause harm in my what I thought my well-doing, my best advice, my best actions. It actually caused you harm. And that's why I say don't try to psychoanalyze it. Even here's the part that gets a little tricky. Even if you don't even agree with
Right.
their interpretation or their perception, in that moment, it's like, okay, so are you going to use pride? Or I like to look at it as ego, easing God out, where it becomes about you
Yeah.
and you don't focus on the real thing that's presenting you. If you make it, again, like you said, all about yourself in that moment, well, that's the problem. You're making it about you in this moment. It's about them. See it from their lens. Step into their world. It's like you coming from where you are, going to where they are, coming out and looking through their lens and seeing it, feeling the hurt of others with the desire to change. That's empathy. And even in a space where you're like, I didn't mean to do this, you took that and you took it wrong. Guess what? With that, go back to that effective communication. That's when you're able to effectively have that dialogue, communicate, and that way they can begin to be open and not defensive and guarded to hear your line of thinking and what you felt was right and why you did what you did. And you both understand, wow, I never looked at it that way from your perspective. I never
Wow.
considered that. Wow. And then I took it this way because I was at this state of mind. And then what sometimes happens, it God comes in his infinite way, and the child was like, I wasn't the best child in my actions, and I'm sorry too. I didn't even see it from there, but that never would have happened if that dialogue, that openness, being vulnerable,
Yeah.
and not wanting your ego, your pride to lead that. It's like, no, I'm hearing your hurt, and I'm a part of that. You
Yeah.
know, I remember this story. I believe it was Dr. Stephen Covey talked about this. There was this man that had gotten on a bus with his children, and when he got on the bus, he kind of just sat there and just kind of looked down. And his children were all over the bus, jumping over the seats, climbing and going up under the seats. And the other people that were on the bus, they were looking. He could look around and see everyone was getting agitated and looking at him like, I know you hear your kids. I know you hear your children screaming and rolling in the middle of the aisle. The bus driver's telling, hey, sit down back there. And you're sitting here, you're not seeing anything. And or you're acting like you're not seeing or hearing them. And look, oh my gosh, your child's climbing over the seat. Are you serious right now? He's getting angry. You could see all the other people on the bus becoming even more agitated and more angry. And so he said, I couldn't take it any longer. He said, sir. And the guy slowly looked up at his face. He said, yes. He said, sir, do you see your children? They're rolling in the middle of the aisle. They're crawling under the seats. They're climbing over the seats. They're screaming. They're yelling. They're jumping. He said, sir, get your kids. And he said, oh, yeah. And he looked up at the guy and he said, we just left the hospital and my wife, their mother just died, and I guess they don't know what to do with that because I sure don't. And in that instant, his whole perception with understanding changed.
Yes.
And he began to, and the other individuals on the bus heard him. They all began to kind of help with the children, getting them off the floor and hey, come on and sit down, because they got understanding. And I always say, well, I got this from Dr. Stephen Covey: seek first to understand, secondly to be understood.
That's good. That's good. Wow. While we're sitting here talking, so much is going on within me. I may look very calm inside, and I am, but I cannot help but believe that there's healing taking place within me and within the audience that will hear this, as we're now hearing and grasping the pieces that we've needed to bring the generation into the next realm of who they are. And it's really a place of humility with the generation prior to. There is a problem that exists right now, and that is the younger generation does not want to hear anything the older generation say, because they feel like they don't understand, and their thinking is so outdated that if they will believe Google, they will believe each other on their level. How can someone 25 relate to you and you're 35 or 45 and they've not walked in the shoes you've walked in? I've heard you, and I'm one too that as a parent, we wish we knew what we know now then. But even though we made mistakes, we have produce children who are a gift to society, and they're still finding their way. And some things we agree with, other things we don't, but we give them that freedom. How can we as adults be a voice that the generation behind us want to listen to and value what we say? And to flip that coin, how can the younger generation come to a place of receiving wisdom from the older generation?
Woo! That is loaded. That is so loaded. Okay, so I'm going to start with the younger generation being open to hear. And then I'm going to end with the younger being able to hear, and then vice versa. So the younger being able to hear the older generation. Unfortunate, a lot of times, because we are the older generation, we lead with, you got to listen to me, because I know I've been there, even though in some instances that's true. But when we lead with that, we're leading with that invisible aggression, if you would, Like, I know because I am 50 plus years old. I've been there, done that. And I know if you would just listen, you can avoid this and you can avoid that. And you're just so hard headed and you think you know everything. Well, when we lead with that aggression, they'll sit there most times with respect and hear you, but they become shut down. You
Yeah.
can see it in their body language. You can see
Yeah.
it by their eyes are kind of glassed over, like, and in their minds, they're probably thinking, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
And sometimes, honestly, we lead with a lot of our personal spiritual values. And if
Yeah.
they have not taken ownership or have developed their sense of spirituality, they're like, okay, and I've heard this. Here you go with this God stuff again. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, mom.
Yeah.
Okay, dad.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, or okay, grandma, or okay,
Yeah.
aunt or uncle, whoever that person, that elder is in front of them.
Yeah.
Versus, and here, let me finish that out. So when you leave with that, they become shut down, and they're like, okay, all right, okay. And that okay is okay, just stop talking. I want to hurry up and leave out of here. I just want to hurry up and walk away. Okay, okay. Yeah. So when you are going to them and you want them to listen or hear some wisdom, you begin where they are. Seek first to understand, secondly, to be understood. I'm just going to give a scenario, just like a hypothetical situation. You walk up to the child, say, "Hey, how's it going?" "Oh, it's okay. It's good." "Well, what's good?" "I mean, everything, it's good. I'm good. I'm all right." "What's all right about you?" "I mean, it's cool." "Okay, well, what's cool?" Um, I mean, like, what you want to, I mean, what you asking this for? I mean, they they will be getting agitated, and so you're like, well, how's things going in school? With everything that's happening in our world and the mass shootings that are occurring all over in different areas. How do you feel? When you go to school, when you get on the bus. I mean, do you think about things like that? Are you nervous when you're in the building? And you kind of meeting them, trying to, even if you don't know, you kind of pick a topic in their world that you see that they may be interested in, and just start kind of asking questions, not intrusively, but just kind of like as a conversation where they don't feel like, okay, I got to put my guards up because you're about to come with some stuff that I know I got to guard myself. I don't want you to know. No, it's just like, I just noticed, that you seem a little quiet, more than normal. And I just want to let you know that I'm here for you. And I just want to know what's happening in your world. And then you kind of self-disclose, well, just I want to develop this relationship. Let me let you understand how my day went. And you may say, you know what, I had a meeting today and I was so overwhelmed in that meeting. My mind started wondering, just helping them to see where you are, what you experience as an adult. And you said, do you, and here, see, for me, I kind of have to be a little careful because I've gotten, Mom, I'm not your client. I'm not your client, Mom. I'm like, no, you're not. You're my child. I just want to know. I just want to know what's happening with you. And
I, I have to jump in that. My thing is, look, can you stop with the Bible verses? God, I don't need the preacher. I want the mom. So I understand what you're saying. Totally.
exactly. Exactly. And so you, again, because when you do that, it's like you turn them off of
Yeah.
what your message is. They
Yeah.
shut down. They may sit there out of respect, or they may get up and walk away because they don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But what did you accomplish? You accomplished showing them how much you know versus how much you care, in a space where meeting them where they are, understanding where they are, getting into their world and seeing their world through their lens, and not saying, "Oh, I know how you feel because I remember I went through that," and this is no, you know how you felt going through something similar, but you don't know how they feel. And a lot of times we as parents make mistakes. Oh, well, I've been there. Yeah, I know how you feel. No, you don't. You know how you felt. How about asking, how did you feel going through that, and what did you do to navigate through that? That sounds really, really scary. And you know what? The way school and way things are now, it was not like this when I was your age. And so this is new for me too. And what are ways that you can protect yourself? What are ways that you can bullying is a really big thing, gosh. And what can you do to protect? What can you set in place, and what can you do for them not to go into that dark hole of I gotta become invisible so nobody will pick on me. And I'm not going to tell you who's picking on me because I don't want it to get worse for me, because they'll get me when nobody can protect me. Or what about the cyberbullying? God, God rest the many souls that are in our cemetery because they decided to take their own lives because of being
That's right.
bullied in
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that? And there's so many ways to do that, and being present in their
Yeah.
lives, and being and not I do not on no level accept, and no parent should disrespect,
Yeah.
period.
It's good.
Also, a twofold thing in there, believe it or not. When you have a young man that's growing up, there's also a level of respect as parents that should exemplify that to their children. Now, I know I probably get a lot of emails about that. I'm the parent, they're supposed to respect me. It goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
It really does. Not to
Yeah.
the point where you become the child and they're the adult. No, but they need to understand. You know what? Wow, my mom is, or my dad is respecting, my aunt or my uncle, my grandparents are respecting me, and I'm learning definitely about honoring and respecting them,
Yeah.
because we're
Honor.
the parents, we try to push our authority in
That's
a
right.
space where we are it's like we are forcing our will onto them without any consideration of where they are and what they feel.
That's
I don't
right.
want to. I don't want to hear what you got to say. This is what it's going to be, and that's period. I don't even care what you think. As a matter of fact, you don't have an opinion.
Yeah.
They do. They do.
They
But
do.
and guess what? They don't know everything in their young minds, and they
Yeah.
do need guidance. But
Yeah.
it is the way that you deliver that
That's
for them
right.
to be receptive of it. And guess what? There are instances, I do not want to leave this out, where professional help and counseling is needed.
That's exactly right.
It is
Yeah.
simple. And
And
you recognize that.
yeah. A verse that's very dear to me, and I hate, well, I'm not going to apologize for bringing scripture in, but train, don't be conformed to this world, but transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is a good and perfect will of God. When everyone is trying to prove what their will is, we get chaos. And that's what we see in the world now. We've left the blueprint. And I know that everyone may not be where we are, and that's okay. Because we had to find our way to this journey too. Some point in our lives, God met us and He became a reality to us, and we made a choice. And I believe sometimes parents believe that a child should conform to them above learning how to uh, be transformed by
Mhm.
the renewing of the mind. And parents or adults must constantly continue to renew their minds too, or else we'll be stagnant and stuck in the past and the old model, old structures. And we're trying to put these old structures and models into these new young babies that are being formed, who know how to maneuver on phones and the internet, and that stuff is challenging to us, but they seem to come here and know. I watch this 9-month-old baby that's know to put one finger on the phone and maneuver because she's watched her parents do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a certain element that they have that we may not have had. And so we're learning to honor each generation and what they bring and not conform them to our image. You know, I remember years ago, I was in this church and all the ministers that came up behind this pastor, they preached like him, they walked like him, the voice sounded like that pastor. And I'm like, clones. These are clones. And we see the picture, the walking dead, the blind leading the blind. And we must give every individual an opportunity to be their individual and believe that God knows how to get them to the point of recognizing their destiny like He did us. And so that takes the pressure off that we can enjoy them and relate to them and honor them and not throw this thing over them that I'm the parent. You're supposed to do what I say. How can we work to talk to them in such a way that they make a choice and they think that they are making their own choice, which they are, but it's really the choice that you had in mind for them anyway. And this doesn't just go with life, it's in the church. It's in the church when everybody is controlled by the pastor or a leader and they lose their individuality and their gifting and they become somewhat cloned, masked individuals who are always seeking the approval of the pastor or someone in leadership because they feel so devalued and worthless. I know I've jumped into something else, and we're coming up on the hour. I told you we would be doing this again.
Yes,
And so I'm
yes,
really curious. I'm really curious as to what you would have to say about that. I feel like I'm like a rabbit jumping all over the place, but
you know what?
everything
It's
out
okay.
of you in this hour.
It's okay. It's okay. And I was sitting here like, okay, we're going into a really different realm. Some of the biggest hurts, hear me clearly, some of the biggest hurts occur in the church buildings. Now, notice I say church buildings because realistically, we are the church. Wherever we go, we are the church. And we go to a building, and some of the most devastating experiences happen for
Yeah,
various reasons. It could be some of the ones that you identified, Apostle Hosley. It could be other things. It could be I'm coming there broken in a space where really everyone in there is broken, and then I become even worse than what it was before I walked in these doors, or I'm being judged because I don't know the etiquette. Well, what does it mean about an etiquette if my soul is
that's right.
broken? I
Yeah,
need to be prayed over, or to be loved on, or to
yeah,
be able to get some help. And case in point, when I was completing my dissertation some years ago, my dissertation was focused on my writing, my research was focused on the reoffending males in the domestic violence era. And I was focused on the facilitators that provide assessment programs to these repeat offending males. Now, I went into thinking, my research, I went into thinking that, well, it has to be a problem with the treatment program. That's why these males are repeat offenders. That's why the recidivism rate is so high in the domestic violence world. However, in getting into my research and interviewing, I found out that unfortunately, a lot of the spiritual churches, a lot of the churches, they refuse to create a domestic violence support group to be able to help those men and women that are repeat offenders to come into these groups, learn new tools, not just the offenders, but their whole families. Because let's say they come in, they learn these tools, and they go back to their communities, they go back to the same place where they left, where the same environment is the same. So they're either going to utilize and pull on these tools, these new tools, or they're going to revert back to what they just came from, because this is their environment. And so my take was, well, let's create an environment where their whole family is a part of this program. And not just the offender is learning a new way to project aggression, or versus fist to face, or versus verbal. It's like so many genres of abuse, and all of them all together so that they all can learn these tools and begin to again realign, take accountability, give, and begin again with everyone together. It was just a big block. No, we can't do this. No, we can't do that. And it was disheartening, where this is a place where we have come to think that it is where we should go to get healing, go to get all of these things to become better. And in a lot of instances, it becomes worse. So let me backtrack out of that. When we as individuals are going through challenges and we don't know how to navigate life, because life happens after we plan, and sometimes a situation or circumstance can show up in our world and we not even know how to take that next step. That's why it's important that you create a village, that you create those that are wiser than you, that you trust to speak into your world, your life, your mind, your soul, to be able to help you get and navigate through that space without further injuring where you are. Yeah. And when we look at our younger generation, they have to deal with a lot. My God, they have to deal with so much that I don't even remember things that they're having to be aware of that I even thought was a thing when I was in high school or middle school, elementary school. It wasn't even a thing. Now it is prevalent. And you have to be aware of everything that's around you at all times. That's a lot of stress right there within itself. That's a lot of anxiety within itself. That can also spin you into depression, because you always have to be on heightened awareness that you don't even know, when can I just get a break? What do you mean self-care? What is self-care? What do you mean boundary? What do you mean breathing and mindfulness? How do I get into all of those spaces when I got to be aware of all these things in my life? That is a lot, and you can become so overwhelmed with that you become so sad and depressed. Like, you know what? What's the use? Yeah. What's the point?
Yeah. You know, Dr. Barclay, Dr. Elaine, this has been such a blessing. And I was actually going to ask you to sum everything up, kind of, sort of, but you just did. And my prayer is that a hunger has been created in everyone who is listening to get the professional help if you need it, whether it's Christian or non-Christian. It doesn't matter, as long as you get the help and you start moving forward. You come out of a place of being stuck and a hostage to your past, the way you were trained and brought up. I think this is one of the reasons that God has always given us Holy Spirit to help us to keep moving forward, to keep evolving into who we are. none of us have arrived. We're in the stage of evolving into the greatest human beings and sons of God that we can be. And you have enlightened us in so many ways. And we are going to do another part. And I'm something that I've been planning, and I'm not even sure I should release it, but there will be a physical gathering, and you will be a part of that. I just love the connection, and Valerie was so right. She said, "You have got to meet Dr. Barclay." She said, you remind me of her and she reminds me of you. Now, I'm not sure because you're a lot deeper than I am, but what I can say is there is such a camaraderie going on here. And I feel your heart and the wisdom, and I love it. And this has just been amazing. And so we will come back and talk with others more, and we will do it live so people can insert their questions. And once again, I'm putting the information on the screen for her business. I would advise you to speak with her, call, make an appointment. I'm going to just say this for her. She works with cash or she works with insurance. However, she can work to help you get out of that place you are. She wants to do it. And so, um, uh, and not too long ago, we dealt with physical healing, eating to live, not eating, living to eat, which means anything. Now we're dealing with your emotions and your mindset, your mental health.
Yes.
Because God is concerned about all three parts of you. That's why He made you a triune being. He's not just concerned about you being healed spiritually, and then you walk around broken down physically and mentally. He wants the whole man healed, physically, mentally, spiritually.
It's all
And
connected. It's all
huh?
connected. It's all connected. Our mind, body, soul, and
All
spirit.
connected.
When our bodies
You,
are wrecked with pain, it
that's
messes
right.
with our psychological methods. It's all connected.
And all disease starts internally,
Yes.
especially emotionally, and what have a worryation, anxiety, and the body is reacting or responding to what's going on within you mentally and even spiritually sometimes. So this is an invitation. David said in Psalms 51, "Search me, O God." This is an opportunity and a time that we all really need to be searching ourselves. We can even leave the scripture out of that. We really have to become introspective. What's in me? Why is it in me? How can I get rid of those things and these thoughts, these evil thoughts, and this feeling of I'm not good enough and I don't measure up? How can I get past it? And that's what Dr. Elaine can help you do. She can help you find that place that you see your value and see your worth, not based on what someone has spoken over you or said to you, but you have a new perspective of who you are. And so we bless you. We love you. We look forward to seeing you again, talking with you with a live session. And that's it for today.
Thank
Bye.
you. I love you right back. See you.